Every astrology sign has an opposite counterpoint sign. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, a fire sign, initiator, independence, pioneer, ready to go for it, have a big adventure, and to see what transpires. The opposite sign is Libra. Libra is the energy of sharing and exchanging energies, cooperation, making room for others in your own energy, being able to allow for differences, different ways of seeing, perceiving, understanding. Libra is about how we maintain our balance within ourselves while understanding who other people are and what they need. So in this relationship axis, which is what the Aries Libra energies are about, it's about how you relate. And Aries is establishing this is who I am. And it also is about really consciously fortifying your own aura, your own sense of self, knowing who you are, knowing what you need. And that can show up in so many ways. I mean, think about how in your journey you've come to understand more about who you are based on your life experiences, based on your healing, based on what you've been through, what's triggered you, what's been good for you, what's expanded you, what's been difficult. We have all these different experiences in our life that gives us information about who you are, what you want, and what you're about. And all of that can contribute to your self-identity. Then when you look at the opposite sign of Libra, it's how you take that sense of self to meet others where they're at, to understand their experiences, what they want, what they need, how they're different than you, how they have different needs and different thoughts. And Libra is where we make room and space for those differences so that a connection can grow or flourish, so that there can be something established. Libra is about how we connect with people, typically one-on-one, where we make these connections, we establish perhaps something in your work environment with clients and coworkers. It's also how we understand not only how we're different, but how we solve those differences, because Libra wants harmony. Libra wants ideally a win-win. And how do we negotiate and solve things as they come up? And if you've been in relationships, you know that that is what becomes a strength in relationships, is how you solve problems together or how you figure it out together. And this can be through your personal relationships, your friendships, family relationships, anybody that you interact with. It's how do we work this out for us? And that's part of the Libra energy. It honors that there are more than one people involved in here. There's more than one entity looking for a solution or something to feel good about. So what we have here between the Aries and Libra relationship axis is understanding how your energy meets others, how it makes space and room for others, especially for those differences, how you solve problems, how you communicate, how you work together. These are all strengths of Libra. Now, the Libra energy, however, it can be a little bit unconsciously codependent at times. It can be wanting peace at any cost. Libra can unconsciously give up its sense of self to make another person happy, or to maintain a relationship or a partnership, or to ensure that no one is mad at them. This is where that Libra energy can be in a sense of, I will accommodate, I will support, I will interact with you, I'll do whatever is necessary to maintain this, to maintain us. And so there comes times when we have to check in. Is that healthy? Is that working? And is that even honest to who you are? So the Libra energy is making sure that you don't give up who you are. You don't surrender your needs. You don't do anything at all costs just to save a relationship or save a friendship, save a connection. You check in on who you are, what you need. And the Libra strength then is being able to talk about it, is to have the communication skills and even the objectivity to understand, okay, I can bring my truth to the table. I can share what I'm thinking. I can say what's on my mind. I can even communicate what's not working from a good place. And the Libra strength can be very good at not assigning blame, at not looking for fault, at not trying to stir up drama or create a bigger mess. Typically, that Libra energy, when it's mature and healthy, will say, this is how I'm perceiving it, this is what I'm feeling, this is what's coming up for me, and then can listen to what the other person has to say. And Libra can be excellent at listening. So the Libra energy here in this relationship axis is understanding what you need in relationships that are healthy and strong, where you're also aware of what you're contributing and what you're receiving. And that's something that's important too. And so this is where it's interesting to look at the dynamic between Aries and Libra. Now, Aries is where you will connect with your sense of self and say, this is what I need, this is what I want to do, this is what matters to me, this is who I am, and being able to bring that to the table, to be honest and truthful about your needs and who you are. But sometimes that Aries energy, it will unconsciously go into battle. It will be infantile or immature. It can be too self-focused and too self-absorbed to the point where it doesn't have objectivity. In other words, Aries can be very subjective and be like, well, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. And why can't you be that way? Or why can't you understand it? So sometimes that Aries energy can have like this very small perspective around what is happening or what needs to happen. Also, that Aries energy can not be mature enough to understand differences. Also, because that Aries energy will fight unconsciously or get angry, impatient, frustrated, the Aries energy is, in a positive way, needs to mature to the point where you can have good communications and relationships that don't turn into a fight, right? Or that don't become a battleground, where you can say what you need to say and allow that to be heard without it becoming something else or something bigger. So the Aries energy matures through understanding a sense of self, how to bring that to the table, how to communicate, how to listen, how to understand the differences that exist between people, and then be willing to stretch and step outside what that Aries energy just wants or might have a limited perspective on. So the Aries-Libra axis here, the exchange of energy, is about understanding how your personal aura can interact with others in a healthy place, and how you can also establish relationships that have that kind of that like healthy combination, let's call it, of interdependence, where you know you can rely on others. They'll be there for you. Libra will support, Libra will show up, Libra will be the person who's like, hey, if you had a bad day, let's meet for dinner. You know, Libra is that person who can be available for you, and maintaining that healthy interaction is key, because the unhealthy interactions are more about understanding that sometimes that Libra energy will let me do anything to make you happy. And does that really work? Does that really tend to work in the long term? No. Each person is responsible for their own happiness and knowing themselves. That would be an Aries strength. But then we take that into relationships, and we have to maintain a sense of self in relationships. And that's how then you really get to know people and they really get to know you. So Libra brings up some beautiful ways of understanding how to share and exchange energy so that it doesn't result in codependence or anything that is about giving up your own sovereignty, giving up your own needs. Rather, it's about understanding, how do we make these puzzle pieces work? How does this connect? How does this fit in a way that's best for you and best for me? So this is a wonderful axis to understand in your own chart, especially if you have planets in Aries or Libra or both, because then you are working with this dynamic. Now, the energies don't have to be in an exact opposition, meaning you could have one planet in the early degrees of Aries and then maybe another planet in the late degrees of Libra. They're not in exact opposition, but they're still energetically in your chart as parts of yourself that you're understanding and perhaps becoming more conscious of how it shows up for you and how it has played out for you in relationships. Now, if you don't have Aries or Libra in your chart, you still have in your chart the energies of how you do exchange, of how you do show up for others. And of course, there's so many ways that can show up. But this is just about being conscious of how these energies work. Now, what if you have really strong Aries and no Libra? Well, then you are heavier on the Aries spectrum. You have more of that energy signature, which means it's very important to then understand more of the Libra energies, to be aware of what that looks like. Because too much Aries, you could be unconsciously selfish or perceived that way. Or you could be perceived as someone who's only about yourself and you're not understanding or working with others. So it's just good to understand how these energies work so that you can self-evaluate and self-verify what has shown up for you. Now, if you have a lot of Libra in your chart and not a lot of Aries, then you would want to be aware of how those Libra energies have expressed themselves, how relationships tend to work for you, what the patterns are, what is going well, what is strong, what is healthy, and then perhaps self-assess what doesn't work, where maybe you felt like you had to do a lot to keep the peace, or you really did a lot to like save a relationship or make it happen, make it work, because that Libra energy wants connection. So it's looking at, well, what have you done with those Libra planets to really create connections, and how is that working for you? So this is a wonderful way to look at these two parts of your chart to assess that relationship axis and to understand yourself even more through these multiple layers of astrology. And I will be back doing a series here of all of these energies, the polarities in astrology, and discussing each one and its axis.